As we age, it's not just the physical aches or medications that make life challenging, it's the unexpected emotional and psychological shifts. Many people feel prepared for retirement, slower days, and a quieter home. But few anticipate the deeper changes that can affect our mental and emotional well-being. This video aims to highlight 7 key truths about aging, realities that, if ignored, can lead to regret, resentment, or quiet suffering in your later years. These aren't abstract warnings. They're lessons learned from observing others who face struggles that could have been avoided with a bit more clarity. You might find these truths uncomfortable at first, but by the end, I hope you'll feel more grounded, in control, and aware of the choices that lie ahead. The 7th truth in particular is often overlooked until it has already taken its toll. By understanding these truths, you can protect your peace of mind and potentially shape a future that feels lighter and more fulfilling than you imagined. These lessons are ones you can apply no matter where you are in life, and they may help you navigate aging in a way that feels empowered rather than burdened. Let's begin this journey together and explore these crucial insights. Number 1. The struggle of finding purpose without a morning motivation. Waking up in the morning becomes harder when you no longer have a reason to. That might sound blunt, but it's one of the most overlooked truths about aging. When the children are grown, the career is behind you, and the house has become quieter, many older adults begin to ask themselves, what now? Some may look forward to the peace, but others quickly realize that too much unstructured time can begin to feel less like freedom and more like emptiness. What most people don't fully understand until they live it is that purpose isn't always something grand or dramatic. In fact, it's often the small, personal things that give life meaning. It's the reason you get dressed in the morning instead of staying in bed. It's the task that shapes your day and gives it direction. Without that reason, the hours blur together, and the days start to lose their significance. Over time, the absence of purpose can subtly chip away at your sense of identity. You're no longer the manager, the parent, the teacher, or the caregiver, you're simply here. And when you don't quite understand why you're here, that's when the heaviness starts to creep in. Many seniors try to fill the void with distractions, watching TV for hours, scrolling through social media, or napping just to pass the time. But these distractions don't fulfill the deeper need for contribution or engagement. They only fill space. Eventually, even the distractions begin to feel dull. It's not that you're lazy or unmotivated. It's that your soul is yearning for purpose. Take Walter, for example, an 81-year-old who retired after 40 years as a city bus driver. At first, he welcomed the slower mornings and the freedom from alarm clocks. But by the 3rd month, he found himself waking up later and later, unsure of what the day was even for. It wasn't until his daughter invited him to help at her local school as a part-time crossing guard that something shifted. Suddenly, he had a reason to get up, people to greet, and stories to share. The joy on Walter's face returned, not because he was busy, but because he was needed. Purpose doesn't have to be tied to productivity. It can come from something as simple as caring for a pet, growing tomatoes on the back porch, writing letters to friends, or just being someone others can count on for a little kindness. What matters is that it provides shape and direction to your day. It's about ending the day feeling like you've moved something forward, even if it's just your own peace of mind. When older adults feel aimless, depression isn't far behind. It's not because life is over, but because the script has changed and no one taught us how to write a new one. Purpose isn't something that's handed to you in retirement. It's something you have to create. The good news? It's never too late to find it. If you wake up each day feeling dread instead of excitement, it's time to ask yourself what's missing. Not in your schedule, but in your heart. What would make you feel useful again? What would give your day meaning? Start small. Purpose doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to resonate with you. Number 2. The quiet struggle of pride and asking for help. There comes a point in life when the independence you once wore as a badge of honor starts to work against you. You find yourself needing a little more time to get up, a little extra help carrying groceries, or perhaps just a hand with technology or making appointments. Yet for many older adults, the hardest part isn't the task itself, it's the asking. Pride convinces us that needing support is a sign of weakness, but in reality, it's one of the most natural aspects of being human. The fear of becoming a burden runs deep. We don't want to inconvenience our children, or admit that we can no longer do what we once did so easily. But that quiet resistance can lead to bigger struggles. We miss out on experiences. We delay important medical care. We let household tasks go unattended. We isolate ourselves to avoid the discomfort of asking for help. Over time, the price we pay for silence becomes much higher than the temporary discomfort of reaching out. What's often surprising is that most people around us don't mind helping. In fact, they often want to. It's the way we refuse that makes them hesitate. When we brush off offers with a forced smile or insist that we're fine, when we're not, we teach others to believe we don't need them. And then we wonder why they stop showing up. But here's the truth: vulnerability doesn't push people away. It brings them closer. Take Raymond, for example, an 80-year-old man who struggled to keep up with his yard work but never said a word. His neighbors noticed his overgrown lawn and offered to help, but he politely declined each time. Eventually they stopped asking. It wasn't until Raymond had a small fall and ended up in the hospital that he realized how much pride had not only physically strained him but also emotionally isolated him. When he finally allowed others to help, the support came pouring back, not out of pity but out of respect. Asking for help doesn't mean you're surrendering your dignity. In fact, it often shows wisdom and strength. It says, "I know my limits and I care enough about my well-being to act on them." And when you allow someone to help, you're giving them a gift too, the chance to feel needed, to connect, and to contribute in a meaningful way. There's also an important distinction between help and dependence. You can still maintain your independence while accepting support. Using a walker doesn't make you any less of a person. Accepting a ride doesn't mean you've lost control. These are tools, not defeats. They are part of living smart, not giving up. Letting go of pride opens doors. It allows for deeper relationships, safer environments, and a better quality of life. It's not about giving in, it's about letting in care, letting in community, and letting in the truth that none of us were ever meant to do this alone. When you start to embrace support, not as a last resort, but as a natural part of life, you'll find that aging becomes less about loss and more about making wise choices. And those choices are what define the kind of old age you'll experience. If this message touched your heart today, I invite you to take a gentle step. Leave a comment with the number 2 below. It lets me know you're here, walking this path and finding strength one moment at a time. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell icon. These videos are created to support you, quietly, steadily, through life's hardest seasons. Your presence here means more than you know. Number 3. The quiet damage of small daily neglect. Most people believe that decline happens all at once. A diagnosis, a fall, a major life event that clearly marks a before and after. But in reality, what makes old age challenging often isn't a single dramatic moment. It's the slow, subtle drip of small, repeated choices that gradually chip away at our well-being until we hardly notice how much we've changed. It's easy to overlook those small habits, the ones that seem too minor to matter. But over time, they can build into a lifestyle that accelerates decline more than age itself ever could. The human body is incredibly adaptive. It responds to how we treat it, moment by moment. If we nourish it well, it rewards us with energy and resilience. But if we neglect it, even in small ways, it begins to fade. That could mean skipping breakfast too often, sitting for hours without moving, going days without stepping outside, or letting your thoughts spiral into worry without taking a step back. These aren't catastrophic decisions on their own, but they compound over time. And as they accumulate, they shape how we feel, how we think, and even how we interact with the people around us. There's a certain comfort in routine, but routines can become dangerous when they're built on neglect. Take something as simple as hydration. Many older adults unknowingly drink far less water than their bodies need, and the results are clear: more fatigue, confusion, joint pain, and less motivation. Not because something is wrong with the body, but because the body isn't being supported. Or consider sleep. Late-night television, irregular schedules, or untreated sleep apnea can rob you of rest so gradually that you begin blaming age for your tiredness, when in fact, it's the habits at the root of it. But it's not just physical habits that take their toll. Mental neglect plays a powerful role as well. When we don't challenge our minds, when we don't read, learn, or engage in real, meaningful conversations, our thoughts begin to feel sluggish, and our moods become unpredictable. Emotional health suffers too when we don't give ourselves outlets to process feelings or connect with others. Even the absence of small joys, like gratitude or laughter, creates a gap that, over time, grows into something heavier. Think of Frank, an 80-year-old who always prided himself on being sharp and capable. But after his wife passed away, he fell into quiet routines. Toast and coffee for every meal. The same chair in the same room each day with television filling the silence. At first, it felt like rest, but within a year, Frank noticed his memory slipping, his balance was off, and his motivation had plummeted. His doctor found no major issues, but when Frank began varying his meals, taking daily walks, calling old friends, and joining a local book club, his strength started to return. Not because time reversed, but because his daily life had shifted. Small efforts, like a 5-minute walk, one healthy meal, one phone call, or a moment of reflection in the morning, mattered more than dramatic changes. These small things may seem insignificant at first, but they add up. They signal to your body and mind that you're still engaged, still in motion, and still choosing life with intention. And that's the real danger of neglect. It's not the loss of ability, it's the loss of agency. It's the feeling that life is happening to you, rather than you having a say in it. But you do have a say. You always have. The smallest decision today, right now, can ripple outward in ways you'll feel tomorrow, next week, and for the rest of your life. So, pay attention to the little things because, in the end, they are the big things. Number 4. The unseen burden of unresolved regret. As we grow older, the weight of unresolved regret can become one of the most quietly painful burdens we carry. Regret isn't always loud. It doesn't always scream for attention. Instead, it lingers, often unnoticed, beneath the surface, until one day it rises up and makes itself known in ways we didn't expect. We all have those what-if moments. The paths we didn't take, the words we didn't say, the chances we let slip by. Some regrets are small and easy to dismiss, but others are more profound. They can feel like pieces of our past that never quite settled, never quite healed. Maybe it's a relationship that ended too soon, a dream that was put on hold, or an opportunity that was missed because we didn't feel ready. What's often hardest about regret is not the act itself, but the silent way it changes how we see ourselves. It chips away at our self-worth and makes us question if we've done enough, been enough. Over time, that inner dialogue becomes a filter through which we view our entire life. We look back and instead of seeing the journey we've lived, all we can see is what we didn't do. But here's the truth. Regret, if left unaddressed, can steal the peace you've worked so hard to cultivate. It can make every day feel incomplete, like a story with missing chapters. And while it's impossible to undo the past, the real burden comes when we fail to forgive ourselves and allow that regret to define us. The good news is it's never too late to heal. Healing from regret doesn't mean forgetting or erasing the past. It means accepting that the past, with all its imperfections, is part of who we are today. It means choosing to make peace with it. When we give ourselves permission to let go of the what-ifs and focus on the present, we free ourselves from the burden of regret and open the door to a more peaceful future. Take Sarah, for example, a 75-year-old woman who spent much of her life caring for others, always putting her family's needs first. After her children left home, Sarah found herself reflecting on the career she had never pursued or the travel she had put off. For years, she carried a sense of, "I should have done more." But it wasn't until she decided to finally take a painting class and travel to a place she had always dreamed of visiting that she realized how much she had been holding on to. Sarah's life wasn't perfect, but by allowing herself to experience joy and embrace the things she had once denied herself, she began to transform her regret into new memories, memories that felt meaningful and fulfilling. Regret doesn't have to define your future. When you look back, choose to see the moments of growth, the wisdom, the love, and the resilience you've gained. Let those become the markers of your life, not the missed opportunities. The most peaceful older adults are those who, instead of dwelling on what they can't change, embrace what they can create. So, if you're carrying the weight of regret, remember that the first step to letting go is choosing to forgive yourself. It's not about erasing the past, It's about making space for the present. And when you do that, you begin to redefine the future you want to experience, free from the chains of unresolved regret. If this message touched your heart today, I invite you to take a gentle step. Leave a comment with the number 4 below. It lets me know you're here walking this path and finding strength one moment at a time. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell icon. These videos are created to support you, quietly, steadily, through life's hardest seasons. Your presence here means more than you know. Number 5. The shrinking circle of companionship. One of the first and most surprising changes that many people experience later in life is just how much their world starts to shrink. Friends move away, spouses pass on, children get busier with their own lives, and before long, the calendar that was once filled with birthdays, dinners, and phone calls becomes eerily quiet. What used to be a vibrant web of companionship can gradually condense into a daily routine that, over time, feels more and more isolating. While it's easy to blame others for drifting away, the reality is that this shrinking circle isn't always anyone's fault. It's simply a natural part of aging, a shift that few are truly prepared for. Many seniors find themselves wondering why the phone doesn't ring as often or why there are fewer visits from old friends. What is often overlooked, however, is that relationships, just like our physical health, require regular care and attention to thrive. Without intentionally reaching out, staying engaged, or even making new connections, silence can quickly become more than just peaceful. It can turn into loneliness. And this loneliness doesn't just weigh on the heart, it affects everything. It can disrupt sleep patterns, drain energy, and even alter how we perceive pain and illness. There's a common misconception that loneliness is just the absence of people. But in truth, it's the absence of meaningful connection. You can be surrounded by others and still feel profoundly alone if your interactions lack warmth or mutual understanding. That's why it's not enough to simply be near people. You need to feel seen, heard, and understood. Think about it this way. If you used to enjoy a weekly lunch with a group of friends, and now that tradition has quietly faded, that matters. If you once attended community events or volunteered regularly, but haven't made time for those things in months, that matters too. Take Robert, for example, a 76-year-old widower who spent decades in sales. After retiring, he thought he'd finally be able to enjoy the peace he'd earned. But after just a few months, he realized that the quiet was starting to feel more like absence than rest. Without the daily interactions from his old job, or the weekend gatherings his wife used to organize, Robert found himself going days without any real conversation. It wasn't until he joined a local walking group and began making regular calls to old colleagues that he started feeling like himself again. The truth is, people don't always stay in your life by default. You have to invite them in. You need to be the one to send the message, suggest the coffee, or show up, especially when it's not the most convenient. Waiting for others to reach out can lead to disappointment. As we get older, the need for intentional effort in nurturing relationships becomes even more vital. If we don't put in that effort, the silence gets louder and the loneliness gets heavier. That's why this first truth is so important. If you aren't prepared for the natural shrinking of your social world, and if you don't have a plan to actively maintain your connections, it's all too easy to end up feeling alone in ways deeper and more painful than you ever anticipated. Number 6. Rethinking family expectations in later life. As we age, many of us carry a quiet expectation that our children, grandchildren, or close relatives will always be there for us. Emotionally, physically, and sometimes even financially. After all, we spent decades supporting them, loving them, and putting their needs before our own. It feels natural, even fair, to hope for that same support in return. But here's the truth that many of us don't often acknowledge. No one, not even your children, owes you their time. This doesn't mean that your family doesn't love you. It's likely they do. But love doesn't always translate into availability, and it doesn't always guarantee their presence when you need it most. Every person in your family, whether it's your son, your daughter, or even your grandchildren, is living a life full of their own struggles, responsibilities, and decisions. If we build our emotional well-being on the belief that family will always show up simply because they're family, we are placing our peace in someone else's hands. And when a child forgets to call, or a holiday visit doesn't happen, it's easy to spiral into thoughts like, "Don't they care about me?" After all I've done, they can't even spare a day for me? Such thoughts can quickly turn into bitterness, and that bitterness begins to color our perception of every interaction or lack thereof. But here's a crucial distinction. Emotional dependence is not the same as emotional connection. Relying on others for your happiness, your sense of purpose, or your plans, especially in later years, is risky. The people around you, including family, will change. They will get busy and sometimes they will disappoint you. But not because they are bad people, because they are human. Consider Linda, for example. At 71, she spent the majority of her adult life raising 3 children. She envisioned retirement as a time for frequent family visits, weekly dinners, and spending more time with her grandchildren. But as her children moved to different cities and their own lives grew more complicated, Linda found herself waiting for calls more than receiving them. At first, Linda felt forgotten. But rather than letting that pain consume her, she refocused her energy on what she could control. She joined a local community center, started hosting game nights with her neighbors, and even began mentoring young mothers in her community. Linda's family still mattered deeply, but they were no longer her sole source of meaning and purpose. Aging gracefully means accepting reality with both an open heart and open eyes. It means releasing unspoken expectations and instead building a life that doesn't depend on whether someone else shows up or not. If they do, it's a blessing. But if they don't, you are still whole, still complete. While this truth can be difficult to accept, embracing it offers freedom. When you stop waiting for others to fill your days or validate your worth, you create space to explore new passions, deepen friendships, and grow in ways you never thought possible. The most resilient older adults are those who learn to appreciate what comes without requiring it to look a certain way. Love your family. Cherish their presence. But don't hinge your happiness on it. Once you release that burden, from both them and yourself, you begin to reclaim a peace that no one can take away. If this message touched your heart today, I invite you to take a gentle step. Leave a comment with the number 6 below. It lets me know you're here walking this path and finding strength one moment at a time. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell icon. These videos are created to support you, quietly, steadily, through life's hardest seasons. Your presence here means more than you know. Number 7. The weight of unmanaged pain. Physical pain becomes a more frequent companion as we age. That's no surprise. But what often catches people off guard is realizing that pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is simply the sensation. Suffering is the story we build around it. Too often, we unknowingly contribute to our suffering by trying to ignore the pain, hide it, or resist the changes it brings. This truth isn't about whether or not you'll experience pain. It's almost certain that you will. Instead, it's about how your mindset and how you respond to pain determine whether it will steal your life or simply become a part of it. Some aches creep in gradually, like a stiff shoulder in the morning, knees that complain when you go up the stairs, or hips that don't move quite the way they used to. For others, pain takes the form of chronic conditions, arthritis, neuropathy, back problems, that demand ongoing attention. But here's the important part. When we refuse to acknowledge these changes, when we cling to the version of ourselves that existed 10, 20, or even 30 years ago, we end up suffering far more than we need to. We push ourselves in the wrong ways. We delay seeking treatment. We reject tools and adaptations that could make life easier. Over time, pain doesn't just take over our body, it begins to influence our mood, our relationships, and even our sense of identity. Many older adults carry a quiet kind of shame when it comes to physical decline. Some feel embarrassed to ask for help, as if using a cane or taking pain medication is an admission of weakness. Others get frustrated when their body no longer moves the way it once did, and that frustration turns into bitterness. But here's the truth: adapting isn't giving up. In fact, adaptation is one of the most courageous acts of aging. Imagine someone like Helen, an 72-year-old woman who spent much of her life tending to her garden. A few years ago, she started experiencing severe wrist pain due to arthritis. At first, she tried to power through it, refusing to use braces or adjust her gardening tools. Eventually, the pain became too much and she gave up gardening altogether. But then, a neighbor suggested she try raised garden beds, ergonomic tools, and shorter sessions with more breaks. Helen found a new rhythm. The pain didn't disappear, but her joy did. She stopped pretending that she had to do everything the way she used to. We often forget that how we navigate pain shapes how we feel about our days. When you make peace with your body as it is, not as it was, you begin to reclaim energy that was once spent in resistance. Things like stretching routines, light strength exercises, warm baths, or simply moving more mindfully throughout the day can help manage discomfort in ways that medication alone can't. But the first step is accepting pain without letting it define who you are. The people who age with grace aren't necessarily those who avoid pain altogether. They are the ones who respond to it with wisdom, not fear. They listen to their bodies, ask for help when needed, and discover new ways to live fully, even within their limitations. The way you respond to pain, whether you meet it with resistance or acceptance, ultimately determines how much emotional weight it carries in your daily life. Final thoughts: embracing the journey ahead. As we reach later stages in life, we often find ourselves reflecting on the years that have passed, and while some moments might feel heavy, it's important to remember that aging isn't about what we've lost. It's about what we still have and what we can still create. Life in our later years is not about avoiding pain or regrets, but about embracing the opportunities to redefine who we are and how we live. Yes, there are challenges like the quiet shrinkage of our social circles, the pride that sometimes prevents us from asking for help, and the physical changes that remind us we're not as we once were. But there's also immense potential for growth, connection, and rediscovery. Each small effort, each moment of self-care, and each choice to embrace help or change has the power to shape the kind of aging experience we have. Ultimately, the beauty of growing older comes in realizing that we can still choose. We can choose how we respond to pain, how we engage with the world, and how we redefine purpose. We don't have to do this alone, and we don't have to do it in isolation or in regret. Aging is not a time of diminishing possibilities. It's a time of vast potential for creating new joys, new connections, and new ways of living that align with who we are today, not who we were years ago. As you move forward on this journey, remember that every day is an opportunity to rewrite your own story, to embrace what's important, and to take the small steps that make a big difference. Whether it's finding new purpose, asking for help, or simply finding joy in the present, you have the power to shape your own path. You've lived a rich life, full of lessons, triumphs, and even losses. Now is your time to continue living, continue growing, and continue being the person you want to be, no matter the age or the obstacles. So, go forward with intention, go forward with gratitude, and go forward knowing that the best chapters of your life are still ahead.